Chapter 97. I'm sorry, this disciple of the Empire of Qin's holy court. Luo Qingtong's red lips softly spit out. There are 3 things I won't save. First, I won't save people I'm not happy with. Second, I won't save people who deserve to die. Third, I won't save people who can't be cured by me. So, you should ask someone else. Help him save his junior sister. Ha! Did you one more really think that she, evil Dr. Ghost Eye, was some random cat or dog on the roadside that he could summon and dismiss at will? Don't say that I have a good impression of him. Even if he was a stranger who didn't feel anything, Luo Qingtong wouldn't make a move because of his rude actions just now. The other party didn't respect her as a pharmacist at all. Indeed, Yu Wenma heard that there was an evil Dr. Ghost Eye here who could bring the dead back to life, so he directly came over. He actually didn't believe that Luo Qingtong's medical skills were that good. He had never heard of the name Evil Dr. Ghost Eye before. Not to mention bringing the dead back to life. He even said that the backlash from using the forbidden technique was cured in an instant. Not only that, the injuries in his body were all healed. Yu Wenma simply scoffed. It was just a gimmick from the bloody battle arena. To fool those ignorant cultivators. Even their holy court's pharmacist teacher couldn't refine this kind of medicinal liquid. How could there be such a powerful person in this small black field branch city? He just thought that the other party was a pharmacist and might be of some use, so he came to find her. He didn't expect that the other party didn't know how to appreciate favors. Did he feel that he didn't offer a price and was afraid that he would suffer a loss? He heard that he had won a lot of money before. Could it be that he was insatiably greedy and wanted more? Yu Wenma felt disgust in his heart. He looked up at Luo Qingtong and said coldly, "Do you think the price isn't enough? How much did you pay for the person you saved just now?" "I'll pay 10 times the price." Yu Wenma didn't want to waste words with Luo Qingtong. His junior sister had just used a secret technique on the stage and injured her meridians. He didn't know if it would affect her cultivation in the future. The other party had snuck out to find him. If teacher were to find out that little junior sister was injured because she snuck out to look for him, and that it might affect her future cultivation advancement, it was inevitable that teacher would vent his anger on him. Therefore, Yu Wenma came to find Luo Qingtong, the evil Dr. Ghost Eye, with a glimmer of hope. He hoped that she would have some real ability to stabilize his junior sister's injuries. When he returned to the holy court, there would naturally be people who would help him treat him. 10 times, that's a lot. Luo Qingtong's voice dragged out, low and hoarse. Just when Yu Wenma thought that she was moved and felt contempt in his heart, he suddenly heard her tone change. She sneered and said, "Unfortunately, I don't like you." 10 times? She didn't care even if the price was 100 or 1,000 times higher. What's more, she had saved that blockhead because she wanted to. She didn't even take a single cent. But Yu Wenma wanted to ask her for help? Sorry. She wasn't willing. Luo Qingtong walked past Yu Wenma and headed outside. At this time, the other new students of the Holy Court of the Empire of Qin also arrived. "Senior brother, don't talk to this kind of person. I think it's not that he doesn't want to save her. It's that he doesn't dare to save her." "That's right, senior brother. I think he's just a swindler. Let's not talk nonsense with him. We should hurry and find that Earth Stage Alchemist Grandmaster Lu from the auction house. As long as he's willing to help, junior sister will be fine." The new students of the Holy Court were very angry at Luo Qingtong for treating Yu Wenma so slowly. They pulled him and were about to leave. "That's right. Yu Wenma, disdain to ask this kind of person for help. Let's go," Yu Wenma said coldly. The group of people said this and were about to leave. Chapter 98. Master. Master, save me. It's my fault. It's all my fault. Waves of mournful cries came from afar. In the arena, the crowd parted at the entrance like a tide. It was so fast that it was as if something terrifying had rushed in from outside the door. One had to know that those who entered the arena to vent their anger were mostly violent and tyrannical people who had seen life and death and blood. Usually, they wouldn't even blink when they saw someone with broken limbs. But this time, they scattered as if they had seen a ghost. Yuan Ma and his group just happened to walk out of the VIP lounge and saw the crowd parting in the arena. They immediately looked over curiously. When they saw it, they vomited. Some of the freshmen with weaker psychological endurance vomited on the spot. The others' faces also turned pale. They saw a person rushing out from the middle of the passageway where the crowd had parted. No, it couldn't even be called a person. It would be more appropriate to describe it as a rotting corpse. The flesh on the man's body was rotten into chunks. As he rushed forward, the chunks of flesh kept falling down, mixed with a yellow and white mucus. It looked like a rotting corpse that could move. What was even more terrifying was that half of his face was rotten. As he ran and screamed, the rotting flesh on his mouth fell down bit by bit, revealing the eerie white bones within. As he moved, an unbearable stench quickly spread out. Such a horrifying scene was not common even in nightmares, let alone in reality. Master, save me. I beg you to spare me. I won't dare to do it again. I won't dare to do it again. That disgusting, rotting corpse ran in front of Luo Qingtong and knelt down, kowtowing with all his might. I won't dare to do it again. I won't dare to do it again. I didn't recognize Mount Tai and didn't know how powerful you are. Master. Spare me. Spare me. Master Lu cried and screamed as he desperately begged for mercy. His whole body was rotten to the extreme and it was still deteriorating. He had a feeling that if this continued, the surface of his body would completely rot, and it would be his internal organs' turn. At that time, even the golden immortal wouldn't be able to save him. The poison was acting up too violently. He had no time to react at all. Even after eating several antidote pills, there was no effect. What's more, even the medicinal pill that he bought at a high price that could cure 100 poisons refined by a heavenly alchemist had no effect. Instead, it was getting worse and worse. If he hadn't heard that the evil Dr. Ghost had appeared in the bloody arena and was most likely the black-robed old man, he would have committed suicide in despair. Master. Please be merciful. Please be merciful. He kowtowed desperately. Pieces of rotten flesh fell from his body and face as he moved. Many people couldn't help but avert their eyes in disgust. At this moment, someone from the freshmen of the Saint Academy who were with Yuan Mo couldn't help but say, "You evil doctor are too vicious. What did he do that made you want to torture him like this?" There was no mercy in his heart at all. Really? Luo Qingtong smiled. She wasn't in a hurry to leave. She sat down on a chair next to her and raised her head to look at the rotting corpse kneeling at her feet. In that case, Master Lu, why don't you tell them what you did to become like this? When Luo Qingtong said this, everyone was shocked. Chapter 99. Everyone looked at the disgusting person kneeling on the ground and begging for mercy in shock. They couldn't connect this person with the arrogant and aloof Master Lu in the auction house. How could this be? This was actually Master Lu. But with Luo Qingtong's words, everyone could vaguely see some of Master Lu's silhouette from the remaining intact face. Could this really be Master Lu? While everyone was still in shock, the new students of the sacred institution instantly retorted angrily. You're talking nonsense. Master Lu is an Earth stage alchemist. How could he become like this? You evil doctor are really disgusting. You actually use such words to humiliate people. I think you're afraid that we'll go find Master Lu. Deliberately playing these tricks to disgust people. Those new students of the sacred institution just said this when they were interrupted by a voice from the side. This really is Master Lu. Look, he's even wearing an Earth stage alchemist robe. And there's also that badge on his chest. It really is Master Lu. Because that rotten corpse was too disgusting. No one paid attention to what the bloody black clothes on his body looked like. Now that they heard that person say this, many people immediately looked towards that rotting corpse. Sure enough, they saw the emblem that symbolized an Earth-rank alchemist and that alchemist robe. This really was Master Lu. Everyone was shocked, and those new students of the sacred institution who kept criticizing Luo Qingtong looked like they swallowed a fly, their faces alternating between green and white. At this moment, Master Lu's voice also sounded. Master. I was wrong. I don't dare to switch your medicinal liquid again. Everything is because of my greed. I deserve to die. Please spare me. Spare me. The way he slowly rotted and died was too terrifying. Master Lu simply couldn't care about his dignity as an Earth-stage alchemist. His life was gone. What was the use of that false reputation? Once he spoke, those new students of the sacred institution's face became even uglier. They just said that Luo Qingtong treated the other party too viciously, and in the end, Master Lu revealed that it was because he switched Luo Qingtong's medicinal liquid that he became like this. Thinking about it, that poison must have been put on the medicinal liquid by Luo Qingtong. Whoever touched her medicine would end up like this. Master Lu had only himself to blame. Luo Qingtong didn't even make a move. But you can't use such a vicious poison. A new student of the Sacred Institute wanted to defend himself and the others, but he was scolded by the surrounding crowd. Can you students of the Sacred Institute be reasonable? The poison was smeared on the medicine bottle. If Master Lu had not been so greedy, he would have been fine. No matter how vicious this poison was, it couldn't hurt him. Who asked him to be so dirty? Exactly. Some people who supported Luo Qingtong scolded, "You're talking as if you won't beat a thief to death when you catch him. Your hands must be stained with blood, right? You're still pretending to be a saint. It's not disgusting." These freshmen of the Holy Institute had found the wrong place to speak up for Grandmaster Lu. This was the bloody arena. Most of the people here were ruthless people who paid particular attention to revenge. In their eyes, there was nothing wrong with Luo Qingtong's approach. But the words of these students of the Sacred Institute were disgusting. They were kind-hearted. If you're kind-hearted, don't fight back when you meet an opponent who wants to kill you. Here, you're so righteous, but in the end, you're doing the same thing. Everyone looked at them with disdain. Being looked at like this, the faces of the new students of the Sacred Institute immediately turned red. Yuan Ma's face was also very ugly. It was not because of the ridicule of the people around, but because Luo Qingtong's medical skills were so amazing. Even Grandmaster Lu was like this because of her. She had really misjudged him before. "Let's go," he said coldly. At this moment, Luo Qingtong opened her mouth. Chapter 100. You're leaving just like that? Luo Qingtong tilted her head slightly. Under the black hood, a ferocious and evil Rakshasa mask appeared. The ferocious Rakshasa on the mask faintly looked at Yuan Ma and the others with an evil smile. "You just said that I'm vicious and fishing for fame. What? Now that the truth is out, aren't you going to say anything?" Luo Qingtong faintly flicked her sleeves and looked at them. Following her words, the people of the bloody arena also stood up. "That's right. Just now, you wantonly slandered Master Evil Doctor. Now you want to leave after scolding her? How can there be such a good thing?" A group of rough men stared at Yuan Ma and the others with unkind eyes. "What do you want?" Yuan Ma's complexion was already bad. Now that he was stopped by Luo Qingtong, his expression turned even uglier. Although he asked the people of the bloody arena, his eyes were looking at Luo Qingtong. Everyone knew that the one in charge here was Luo Qingtong. Nothing much. Luo Qingtong looked at him with a faint smile. The ugly expression on the other party's face made her very happy. "Ha! Wasn't Yuan Ma very high and mighty before?" The genius freshman of the Holy Academy of the Empire of Qin really had the right to be proud. If it were someone else, Luo Qingtong might not bicker with them. But Yuan Ma, thinking of how Yuan royal family had looked down on Luo Qingtong and the entire Luo family, and how he spoke to them in a condescending tone, Luo Qingtong crossed her arms and tapped her fingers casually. I just want you to apologize to me in front of everyone. When Luo Qingtong said this, the freshman of the Holy Academy of the Empire of Qin suddenly breathed a sigh of relief. It was just an apology. It was nothing. However, the next second, Luo Qingtong's tone suddenly changed. Kneel down, kowtow, and say sorry 3 times. This evil doctor will forgive you. Looking down on her. Questioning her medical skills. Saying that she was fishing for fame. Luo Qingtong's smile hidden under the Rakshasa mask bloomed like a red spider lily. What a coincidence. She was a very vengeful person. And once she remembered, she would definitely take revenge. Plus the original owner's grudges and old grudges, Luo Qingtong felt that she was being very magnanimous by only asking UNMO and the rest to kowtow and apologize. You. Hearing her words, the people of the Holy Academy of the Empire of Qin were instantly furious. That's impossible. In your dreams. A freshman of the Holy Academy behind Yuanma said. Make them kneel down and apologize? What face would they have left then? If this matter were to spread out, it would be so humiliating. This evil doctor. That's. So you're saying that you're not going to apologize? Luo Qingtong looked at them with empty eyes. Behind her, a group of people from the bloody arena sneered and took a step forward. You. Fine. Then let's replace it with physical pain. The people of the bloody arena clenched their fists so tightly that creaking sounds could be heard. His imposing manner caused the faces of all the freshmen of the Holy Institute to turn pale. You dare. We're students of the Sacred Academy. The new student suddenly lowered his voice when he said this. It turned out that he suddenly remembered that they were freshmen of the Holy Academy, but the bloody arena was from the Black Field. The Black Field wasn't even afraid of the 4 great sacred dynasties, so why would they care about the Holy Academy of the Empire of Qin? Chapter 101. Sure enough, as soon as he said that, the people from the bloody arena and the bystanders all laughed. The Holy Institute of the Empire of Qin, we are so scared. The people from the bloody arena were full of hostility. Suddenly, their faces turned serious and they said coldly, then you can try. We will break your legs here. Let's see if the people from the Holy Institute of the Empire of Qin dare to come and find trouble with our Lord Mingzun. The Black Field had its own rules. As members of the bloody arena, they couldn't casually attack the students from the Holy Institute of the Empire of Qin. But it was different if it was Lord Mingzun's request. Because it was a deal. Moreover, the people from the Holy Institute of the Empire of Qin had insulted Lord Mingzun, so it was reasonable for them to attack. As for the iron-level Black Field token. Oh, it was the people from the Holy Institute of the Empire of Qin who broke the rules first. Moreover, the lowest-level Black Field token didn't give them the right to ignore or cancel the rules of the Black Field. If they caused trouble in the Black Field, as long as they didn't kill Yu Wenma and the others, the Holy Institute of the Empire of Qin wouldn't dare to find trouble with them. It was because of this that the people from the bloody arena were so determined to stand up for Luo Qingtong. Lord Mingzun would take care of everything. What were they afraid of? In fact, they hoped that none of the new students from the Holy Institute of the Empire of Qin would compromise. That way, they would have a chance to teach them a lesson and curry favor with Lord Mingzun. With Lord Mingzun's medical skills, he could casually make some medicine and pills, which would be enough for them to benefit immensely. You. Hearing the 2 words, Lord Mingzun, the new students from the Holy Institute of the Empire of Qin instantly withered. Especially when they thought that Lord Mingzun was in this sub-city of the Black Field, they panicked even more. If Lord Mingzun was alarmed, they might be in an even more miserable state. Who knew what the Black Field would do to win over this evil doctor? They could only blame themselves for being blind and offending this demonic doctor. At this time, the faces of the freshmen, who had previously been extremely disdainful of Luo Qingtong and felt that she was a swindler, were burning with shame and humiliation. Senior brother. They looked at Yu Wenma. The latter's expression was not much better than theirs. In fact, it was even uglier. But in the face of power, they had no choice but to bow their heads. Yuan Mo clenched his fists. His heart was filled with shame and anger because of the humiliation he felt. He gritted his teeth and looked at Luo Qingtong. In the end, he had no choice but to lower his head. Boom! He knelt on the ground and kowtowed 3 times to Luo Qingtong. This is all because of me. I failed to recognize Mount Tai and underestimated Lord Evil Doctor. My junior brothers and sisters were implicated because of me. Lord Evil Doctor, please, don't take it to heart. Every word Yuan Ma said was extremely difficult. As the gods' favored son of the Empire of Tianyu, he was admitted to the Saint Academy of the Empire of Qin and became a heaven-grade freshman. He had never been humiliated like this before. The eyes of the surrounding people pierced him like thorns, making him feel extremely humiliated. Yuan Ma lowered his head, unwilling to let her see the shame and indignation in his eyes. Very good. Not bad. Luo Qingtong glanced at him lightly. This Yuan Ma was indeed a character. To be able to endure such a humiliating situation and resolve it, Li Tianming had no choice but to do so. Looking at the touched faces of the surrounding freshmen, Luo Qingtong smiled playfully. Interesting. At this time, if she continued to be aggressive, she would be helping Yuan Ma's good reputation. She was not that kind. Okay. The girl waved her hand, you can go. His nonchalant attitude made Yuan Mo feel even more aggrieved. He didn't say a word and directly left with the people of the Saint Academy of the Empire of Qin. Of course, his injured junior sister was also included. Looking at his angry back and the blue veins on his forehead, Luo Qingtong was in a very good mood. Chapter 102. After leaving the bloody arena, Yuan Ma and the others went straight to where their airship was parked. Their airship didn't have a summer's subspace like Yi Qinxian's. They could only park it in the Blackfields airship parking area. After boarding the airship, Yuan Ma didn't say a word. He sat in his seat with a gloomy face. The others didn't even dare to say a word. Everyone could see that he was in a bad mood. At this moment, a letter suddenly flew in from afar like a flying feather and a ray of light. It was the emergency contact he left in the Tianyu Empire. It could send him a message from thousands of miles away. Seeing the light of the letter, Yuan Ma raised his hand and caught it. When he finished reading the contents of the letter, his already ugly expression darkened even more. Pa! He crushed the letter in his hand and wrote a few lines in the air. Then he suddenly waved his hand. The light of the message immediately shot off into the distance. After doing all this, he suddenly raised his hand and slammed it heavily on the tea table in front of him, directly smashing the tea table into pieces. Break off the engagement? In your dreams. Yuan Ma's face was extremely angry. The Luo family wanted to break off the engagement? That was impossible. Luo Qingtong was destined to be his woman in life and his ghost in death. The engagement couldn't be broken off. Yuan Ma didn't care what Yuan Shue did to Luo Qingtong. He only knew that the Luo family didn't have the right to disobey him. If he wanted to marry Luo Qingtong, the Luo family could only obey him. If they didn't, he didn't mind destroying the Luo family and taking Luo Qingtong back to the Tianyu Empire by force. Anyway, he just needed her to be a decoration. As for whether Luo Qingtong and the Luo family were willing or not, it was not within his consideration. It was just a marquee mansion in a low-level country. What right did they have to refuse him? Yuan Ma's face was cold. If it weren't for, he wouldn't even look at Luo Qingtong. Just as Yuan Shue said, she didn't deserve him. Shua. The light of the letter flew towards the Tianyu Empire. After flying for a while, it fell into the emperor's hand. How is it? What did Immerse say? Empress Tianyu asked anxiously. Beside her, Yuan Shue also sat up straight and looked towards her imperial father. Immerse won't. Also, tell the Luo family to behave themselves and wait for Luo Qingtong to marry him when she is 16. Emperor Tianyu said as he crushed the letter. What? Empress and Yuan Shue couldn't believe it. It's already like this and still isn't going to break off the engagement? Empress Tianyu was furious. Yuan Shue almost tore her clothes. Has Imperial brother gone mad? It's already. He wants to continue the engagement. Aren't we just waiting for others to laugh at our royal family? She stomped her feet anxiously. You still have the nerve to say that. It's all because of you. Emperor Tianyu glared at her. Who told you to make a move on Luo Qingtong? Your brother must have a reason to marry her. You and your mother are the only ones who are causing trouble. I'm not causing trouble. I'm doing it for my brother's sake. That's such a good opportunity. If my brother agrees, he'll have a meteoric rise and our Tianyu imperial family will rise. What did I do wrong? Besides, didn't father and mother both tacitly agree to this? Yuan Shue stomped her feet, looking aggrieved. Chapter 103. Shut up. Emperor Tianyu coldly shouted. If your royal brother doesn't agree, then it's useless. Enough. It's a foregone conclusion and your royal brother won't change his mind. You're not allowed to provoke Luo Qingtong in the future. Emperor Tianyu indifferently said as he stood up. He did acquiesce after discovering Yuan Shue's actions. But now that there was no chance of that happening, he could only accept Luo Qingtong as his daughter-in-law. As for what Yuan Shue did, he would naturally cover it up. With the power of Tianyu Empire, it's easy to erase the influence of Yuan Shue's actions. Luo family better behave. Otherwise, he wouldn't mind uprooting their entire family. In any case, only wanted Luo Qingtong as a decoration. Alright, you guys can go and comfort grandfather Luo. Tell him not to have any other thoughts. Luo Qingtong is destined to be a member of our Tianyu Empire. Just based on their Luo family, they want to break off the engagement. In their dreams. Emperor Tianyu's heart was unsettled. He didn't show it on his face, but his words were very impolite. As for what Shue did, it was just playing around. Give him something to comfort him, that's all. In a bad mood, Emperor Tianyu didn't even have the mood to see grandfather Luo. If Yuan Ma agreed to break off the engagement, he would naturally be willing to see grandfather Luo. But now, Yuan Ma refused. Grandfather Luo coming to break off the engagement was a slap in the face. A weak marquis mansion from an inferior country. How dare he come to their door and break off the engagement? Emperor Tianyu's heart was very uncomfortable and he directly flicked his sleeves to leave. Behind him, Yuan Shue stomped her feet. Mother. Look at royal father, he. Enough, this is your royal brother's decision, your royal father can't do anything about it. Someone, summon grandfather Luo. Empress Tianyu was also very unhappy, but she knew that if Yuan Ma didn't agree, no one could force him. Half of Tianyu Empire's power was supported by Yuan Ma. If he didn't agree, no matter how unhappy they were, they couldn't break off the engagement. What a pity, Luo Qingtong took such a good position. If he had known earlier, he wouldn't have proposed this marriage to the Luo clan. The more she thought about it, the uglier her expression became. When he faced old Master Luo, he did not have a pleasant expression on his face. With their status in the Tianyu Empire, it was already a blessing for them to marry a girl from a small family like Luo Qingtong. So what if he was dissatisfied? He was just a country-guarding marquis from a small family. Did he expect her, the Empress of Tianyu, to smile at him? At this time, Tianyu Empress had completely forgotten that it was Yuan Shue who made a move on Luo Qingtong first, so grandfather Luo came to cancel the engagement. Of course, even if she hadn't forgotten, she probably wouldn't have cared. In her eyes, the royal family of Tianyu could do whatever they wanted to the Luo family and Luo Qingtong, but it was wrong for the other party to break off the engagement. It was a slap to the face of Tianyu's royal family. Old Master Luo, has sent a message back. The royal family of Tianyu will not withdraw from this marriage. Your Luo clan should stop having other thoughts. Tell Luo Qingtong to get ready. When she turns 16, people from Tianyu will go pick her up. As for Shui, it's just a child's play. It's a bit overboard, but it's not a big deal. The Empress of Tianyu sat high up on the high chair and said. But we've frightened your Luo clan. Here's a gift list, consider it our apology to the Luo clan. Let's drop this matter. Don't mention the cancellation of the engagement again. Chapter 104. Elder Luo thought the annulment would go smoothly. After all, Tianyu's royal family couldn't deny what Yu Wenxue had done. He didn't expect them to be so shameless. When the Empress of Tianyu spoke, he thought he'd heard wrong. Children's play? No big deal. Bribing the second concubine's daughter to harm the first wife's daughter, crippling her cultivation, blinding her eyes, and throwing her to a group of men to rape. When she was lucky enough to escape, they even sent men to kill her. Was this a game between children? Was this not a big deal? Did Tianyu's royal family take him for a fool? And, an apology? Elder Luo looked at the list of gifts in front of him and gritted his teeth so hard they were about to shatter. Qingtong almost lost her life after being wronged like that. Tianyu's royal family sent him away with a gift list. They refused to annul the engagement and didn't even punish Yu Wenxue. What did they take the Luo family for? What did they take Qingtong for? And Luo Qingtong was blind. Elder Luo knew she was fine and could still see with her eye talent. But Tianyu's royal family didn't know. Yet the Empress of Tianyu didn't mention it at all. It was as if Luo Qingtong's blindness wasn't a big deal. Instead, she said it was a child's play and it was harmless. Elder Luo felt that if he accepted the gift list today, he wouldn't have the face to see Luo Qingtong and his ancestors. Bang! Old Master Luo was so angry that he stood up and knocked over the gift box in front of him. That's impossible. Tianyu's royal family did such a thing. I won't marry Qingtong off again. I must annul this engagement. How dare you? The Empress of Tianyu's expression darkened when she saw her gift box being knocked over. She was already unhappy. It was already polite enough for her to suppress her temper and talk to Elder Luo. She didn't expect him to be so unappreciative. How could the Luo family cancel the engagement of the Tianyu royal family as they wished? Bang! She slammed her hand on the armrest and looked at Elder Luo coldly. Who do you think your Luo family is? If Immerse didn't insist on annulling the engagement, do you think I would care about a small Luo family? What part of that Luo Qingtong is worthy of my son? Let me tell you, you have to agree to this engagement. Even if you don't want to. In front of our Tianyu Empire, you have no right to refuse. F***ck your mother's bullshit. Old Master Luo was completely enraged. That's all I have to say. Tianyu's royal family's royal family. Dream. Regardless of whether you agree or not, our Luo clan will definitely annul this marriage. He then left in a rage. He left. Even if he had to risk his life, he would not let Luo Qingtong marry into Tianyu's royal family. Bang! Seeing Elder Luo Tess, Empress, T.T.S., Empress of. At this time, Yu Wenxue came out from behind the screen. Imperial Mother, this Elder Luo is so arrogant. You're letting him go just like that? She pouted. Enough, don't add fuel to the fire, Empress of Tianyu said with a displeased expression. Don't think I don't know what you're thinking. This Elder Luo is our royal family's in-law. Your royal brother is a new student who just entered the sky grade. You can't go too far. Otherwise, you'll ruin his reputation. Otherwise, why would she swallow this anger? Chapter 105. In the Black Field. Luo Qingtong didn't know what happened in the Tianyu Empire. After giving the antidote to Master Lu, she got up and left. Of course, the antidote wasn't given for free. Almost all of Master Lu's property fell into her hands. He had an extremely luxurious and spacious mansion in the Blackfield sub-city. The moment Luo Qingtong got the title deed, she moved in without hesitation. She had always been a person who didn't want to treat herself badly. Who would want to live in an inn when there was a good place to live? She didn't want to be abused. But Master Lu really knew how to enjoy himself. Luo Qingtong looked at the huge white jade pool behind the screen next to the master bedroom. The first thing she did was to take off her clothes and take a bath. She had really had enough of these few days. The Blackfield sub-city was in the wilderness. Luo Qingtong found this place after sleeping in the open for several days. If Master Lu hadn't secretly changed her medicine at the auction house, she would have finished everything and returned to the inn to take a bath. Although he had been delayed for a while, it was still not bad to obtain such a residence. This huge white jade pool was formed by connecting the several side rooms next to the master bedroom together by hollowing them out. That Master Lu was also very elegant. The white jade pool was covered with pebbles. Around the pool, 8 huge beast heads kept pouring out hot water. In a short while, the white jade pool was filled with more than half. Luo Qingtong took off her clothes and stepped barefoot into the pool decorated with bright jade jewelry. For the first time, she felt that Master Lu did the right thing by changing her medicine. Otherwise, how could she get such a good mansion? It should be known that the real estate in the Blackfield was very expensive. Moreover, people who weren't in the Blackfield couldn't buy it. Even if Luo Qingtong was the evil Dr. Ghostai, she didn't have the qualification to buy real estate in the Blackfield before she got the Blackfield token from the Bloody Arena. She would often come to the Blackfield in the future. Having such a mansion was simply too comfortable. However, she still had to find a way to change the servants in this mansion. Although Luo Qingtong wasn't afraid of Master Lu daring to do anything, it wasn't so comfortable to use other people. This was a bad habit that Luo Qingtong developed in her previous life. She generally wouldn't keep people by her side if she didn't have them by her side. It seemed that she had to go to the slave market tomorrow. In addition, she had to buy some people back to the Luo family. In Luo Qingtong's eyes, the Luo family's strength was not enough. After she finished with her business here, she went back to help the Luo family's strength. Especially the old man. Couldn't break through. Luo Qingtong knew that he had accumulated enough strength. It was just that in terms of comprehension, he was still lacking that final step. She was going to stay here for a while to collect some elixirs to refine a congealing pill for the old man. Refining elixirs and refining elixirs were two different things. Therefore, Luo Qingtong was going to collect more elixirs to avoid any mishaps. While thinking, she stretched her body, comfortably half lying on the edge of the white jade pool, soaking in the warm pool water. She twirled the fruits on the plate beside the pool and tasted them carefully. Suddenly, her eyes narrowed. In the next second, her body flew up with the pool of water vapor. A muslin dress appeared in an instant, wrapping around her exquisite body. His black cloak fluttered in the air in an instant. It completely enveloped her body. Who? Luo Qingtong lowered her voice and shouted. Outside the room, there was a guard that she set up using her previous life's unique method. At this moment, his vigilance was suddenly triggered by someone. Swish. Chapter 106. Yi Qianxian stared at the person in front of him, whose body was still covered in water vapor. The black cloak completely covered Luo Qingtong's figure. Not even a strand of her hair could be seen. Yi Qianxian believed that with his abilities, no one would be able to detect him if he were to appear anywhere. However, it was obvious that the other party had discovered his tracks. Yi Qianxian narrowed his eyes and sized up Luo Qingtong. When he saw the sinister Rakshasa mask on her face, he became increasingly suspicious that the other party was that woman. As for Luo Qingtong, the moment Yi Qianxian appeared, she was already cursing in her heart. It was because she recognized that the person who had just arrived was the man she had threatened, teased, and even forcibly kissed, on the 9 Magi Mountain. Don't ask Luo Qingtong how she could recognize him. She had her eye technique. Although Yi Qianxian was wearing a dark gold mask, he didn't use his powers to cover his face. Luo Qingtong immediately saw through his mask and cursed in her heart. Why was this man everywhere? She actually met him again. Luo Qingtong was depressed. If it weren't for the fact that she couldn't reveal her identity, she really wanted to grab this man and ask him if he really had a crush on her. Why is he always around wherever I go? Damn it. Luo Qingtong cursed in her heart. However, she pretended to be angry and questioned him. Who are you? How dare you barge into my room for no reason? Do you have a hobby of peeping on others when they're bathing? Luo Qingtong's voice was old and hoarse. When she suddenly said these words, Bei Qing and the others felt a chill run down their spines. Who would want to peep on an old man bathing? This evil doctor was really old and unscrupulous. Yi Qianxian's expression didn't change at all. After being tricked by Luo Qingtong so many times in the Nine Magi Mountain, he was already somewhat immune to such tricks. He looked at the black-robed man expressionlessly. The other party's voice was indeed that of an old man. However, that woman had always been cunning. Before he could confirm the identity of the person in front of him, Yi Qianxian wouldn't easily believe a single word from her. Evil Dr. Ghost Eye? Yi Qianxian looked at her. With a wave of his hand, he took out the medicine bottle that Master Lu had given him. Did you concoct this medicine? When Luo Qingtong saw the medicine bottle, she immediately knew how the other party. That was Master Lu. Luo Qingtong cursed in her heart. The other party had brought her a lot of trouble. If she had known that the other party was going to give the medicine to this man, she would have poisoned him on the spot and snatched the medicine. I shouldn't have given him the antidote in a moment of happiness. I should have just poisoned him to death. Luo Qingtong gritted her teeth angrily. The Xianyuan heart medicine that she had concocted was inspired by this man's holy healing spring. Because it was very useful, she had used it to build her reputation. Who would have known that this man was in the Black Field? Enemies were bound to meet on a narrow road. That's right. This was indeed concocted by me. Now that things had come to this, Luo Qingtong couldn't deny it. She had already made a name for herself as the evil Dr. Ghost Eye. Denying it would only increase this man's suspicions. She could only deal with it as it came. What was going on? If she had known that this man was here, she would have run further away and gone to the Black Field of another country. Chapter 107. Thinking of all the things she had done to this man before, Luo Qingtong made up her mind that she couldn't let the other party expose her identity. No matter what, she had to deceive him this time. Did you come to this old man to refine medicine? Unfortunately, this old man only refined medicine based on my mood. This old man's bathroom has been broken into, so my mood is very bad. Please go back. Luo Qingtong flicked her sleeves and wanted to drive him away without saying anything else. She deliberately emphasized the word, this old man, her tone full of arrogance. She hoped that Yi Qianxian would have some sense and quickly scram. However, since Yi Qianxian was suspicious of her, how could he leave just because of these two sentences? He coldly looked at Luo Qingtong and ignored her words to drive him away. He only asked, where did you get the prescription for this medicinal liquid? His gaze was fixed on Luo Qingtong's sinister Luo Sha mask under her black hood. He wanted to see if her eyes behind the mask were blind. However, this mask was specially made for Luo Qingtong, so he couldn't see her eyes and face behind the mask. Yi Qianxian wasn't sure if the other party was the person he was looking for. Prescription? Oh, this old man exchanged it with a little girl. Luo Qingtong knew that the main event was about to start. The other party was obviously suspicious of her, so he asked this question. At this time, it wasn't appropriate for her to say that she didn't know or anything else. Only by giving a mixture of truth and lies could he muddle his way out of this. This old man saved her, so she gave this old man this prescription. This old man saw that this prescription was very effective, so I refined it. What? You have a relationship with that little girl? But even so, it's impossible for you to get the prescription back. This old man obtained it through proper means. Luo Qingtong said half-truthfully. Little girl, Yi Qianxian narrowed his eyes. If the other party was really an old man, then calling that woman a little girl was indeed correct. However, Yi Qianren suddenly took a step forward at this moment. With a swish, he grabbed Luo Qingtong. That palm wind did not have the slightest bit of offensive power, and its target was only the wide black cloak on her body. He wanted to see with his own eyes whether or not the other party was that woman. Holy sh*t. Luo Qingtong had been paying attention to Yi Qianxian's movements. When she suddenly saw him grab her, she subconsciously wanted to dodge. However, she quickly realized that the other party's target was her cloak. With this man's strength, she definitely couldn't dodge. If she really dodged it, wouldn't she be walking right into a trap? Wouldn't she be telling the other party that she was the woman who had raped him while he was injured on Mount Jiuwu? Holy sh*t. It was true that if he stuck his head out, he would be stabbed. If he retracted his head, he would also be stabbed. Hiding was equivalent to walking right into a trap. Even if she could dodge this attack, it didn't mean that she could dodge the next one. Luo Qingtong could sense that there were other people outside the room. They were obviously very strong. Obviously, they were this man's subordinates. If her identity was exposed, she definitely wouldn't be able to escape. She would be caught by this man at any moment. However, she didn't dodge. She had just taken a shower and didn't put on any disguise. She didn't wrap her chest and didn't draw any wrinkles on her old skin. Once he lifted her clothes, she would definitely be exposed. Why did this man come at such a good time? Couldn't he wait until she had taken a shower and put on a disguise before coming? What a scam. Seeing that Yi Qianxian's hand was getting closer and closer, Luo Qingtong's mind raced. The next second, she gritted her teeth. I'll go all out. Chapter 108. With this step, Yi Qianxian's hand, which was about to reach Luo Qingtong's body, fell to the ground. Swoosh. The man's hand pressed against her abdomen. Yi Qianxian's expression suddenly changed at this moment. This was because he felt that his palms seemed to have pressed against something hard. He looked at the place where his hand was pressing with an ugly expression. The next second, he tried to pull his hand back. But at this moment, a hand suddenly pressed down on the back of his hand through the cloak, pressing down on his hand that was about to retract. You're so annoying. So this is what you like. You should have said so earlier. This old man also likes handsome and imposing men like young master. Luo Qingtong's voice was still as old and hoarse as before. But at this moment, there was a hint of surprise and delicateness in this old and hoarse voice. Bei Qing and the others instantly felt goosebumps all over their bodies. What on earth happened inside? Why did this evil doctor's tone suddenly change? It became so hard to explain in a few words. Just as Bei Qing and the others were rubbing their goosebumps and feeling disgusted by Luo Qingtong's voice and tone, Yi Qianxian's face, which was hidden under the dark gold mask, twitched violently. Luo Qingtong's words were really too disgusting. Especially when she used such an old and hoarse voice. With a swoosh, Yi Qianxian pulled his hand back. Luo Qingtong did not let him go and chased after him to grab his hand. Don't. Young master, although this old man has always been the one at the top. But if it's someone like you, this old man is willing to submit to you, Luo Qingtong said delicately. She tried to hold back her laughter as she spoke. Oh my god, this is really too fun. Luo Qingtong felt that the man opposite her was about to explode, but she was not ready to stop. This was not enough to deal with this man. She continued, come on. Young master. Now that this old man has just taken a bath and is naked, let's have some fun. As she spoke, she rubbed herself against Yi Qianxian. At the same time, he placed his hand on the belt of his cloak and was about to untie it. Yi Qianren pursed his lips tightly and the veins on his forehead popped out one by one. Luo Qingtong squinted at him. Seeing that he was not ready to leave, she suddenly pulled on the belt. With a swoosh, the black cloak instantly flew up. At the same time, Yi Qianxian's figure shot out without looking back. All that was left in the air was a voice so cold that it made people tremble in fear. Disgusting. If you're not disgusted, why aren't you leaving? Luo Qingtong rolled her eyes and went forward to pick up the cloak that she had thrown into the air and then dropped to the ground. The young girl's body was exquisite and graceful. She was only wrapped in a thin layer of gauze. Her spring light was boundless and her charm was compelling. Where was the slightest bit of disgusting feeling? Because the gauze was soaked in water, it was still dripping with water. Luo Qingtong's feet were stained with water. The young girl stepped on it barefoot. Her toes were round and smooth, and her nails were like pearls. Coupled with the fierce Rakshasa mask on her face, it was really bewitching to the extreme. If Yi Qianren was a step late or if she turned around to take a look, she would know what she had missed. But unfortunately, he was so disgusted by Luo Qingtong that he left without looking back the moment she lifted the cloak. Chapter 109. Phew. You scared me to death. Luo Qingtong heaved a long sigh of relief after successfully disgusting Yi Qianxian. This man is getting more and more difficult to deal with, she muttered in her heart. Previously at Nine Magi Mountain, she had made a casual gesture of wanting to kiss him and he had been forced to retreat. But just now, he had only left after she took off her cloak. If she had hesitated for even a moment, he would have immediately caught hold of her weakness and exposed her identity. This man had evolved too quickly. What happened to the promised innocence? Luo Qingtong secretly gritted her teeth. However, she had completely forgotten that it was because of her repeated provocations that Yi Qianren's resistance to this kind of method became stronger and stronger. This man held great power and deterred everyone. Before this, he had never met someone as devilishly charming and unrestrained as Luo Qingtong. Who knew that she would have so many tricks up her sleeves? And each time, it was different. Luo Qingtong was gloomy for a moment. Then, she thought of Yi Qianxian's expression when he had just left and was instantly delighted. It was too fun. Unfortunately, this trick could only be used once. If she did it again, that man would probably raise his hand and chop her into pieces. Sigh. As she thought about it, she peeled the banana in her hand and ate it. That's right, the hard thing that Yi Qianxian had touched just now was a banana. Luo Qingtong had originally grabbed it in her hand to eat it. In the end, Yi Qianxian had arrived in an instant and she had hurriedly put on her cloak, but this banana had always been in her hand. If not for this banana, her true identity would have definitely been exposed by that man. That was close, that was close. Luo Qingtong patted her chest and finished the banana in a few bites. She threw the peel into the fruit bowl and got up to change her disguise. After being frightened by Yi Qianxian, she was no longer in the mood to take a bath. Who knew if that man would suddenly appear again? Luo Qingtong frowned as she thought. Fortunately, she was quick-witted enough to dispel his suspicions about her identity. The other party should no longer suspect his identity as the evil Dr. Ghost Eye. However, if the other party recognized the origin of the medicinal liquid, they might send someone to follow her and find out her identity. She didn't know why this man was so persistent. Just because of that pig? Thinking of this, Luo Qingtong's face darkened. It's all that stinky pig's fault. At this moment, she was incomparably glad that she had not let the pig out of the 9-story exquisite pagoda to teach it a lesson. Otherwise, no matter how many disguises he had, he would be exposed in an instant. How did that pig provoke that man? Luo Qingtong thought to herself. She set up a few more defenses outside the room that only she could sense. Then, she raised her hand and released Little Pig from the 9-layer exquisite pagoda. How did you get involved with that man? Little Pig was completely black after being released. It was almost roasted into a suckling pig by the flames at the bottom of the 9-layer exquisite pagoda. Before it could catch its breath, Luo Qingtong picked it up and interrogated it. It was on the verge of tears. Pfff, it opened its mouth and spat out a cloud of black gas. Then, it snorted and said with a wailing pig face, "How would I know? He suddenly came and grabbed me from the Immortal Slayer Palace's inheritance palace. He interrogated me about a bunch of things that I don't know. I said I didn't know, and he wanted to kill me. Of course, I ran away. Chapter 110. Get lost. Luo Qingtong slapped Little Pig's head and sent it rolling on the floor. If she went to ask that man, wouldn't she be telling him, "Ah, I'm the woman who made your soy sauce in the 9 Magi Mountain. The pig you want to catch is with me." It wasn't as if there was something wrong with her brain. Are you telling the truth? Luo Qingtong looked coldly at Little Pig, who rolled on the floor and got up like a ball. You really don't know why he caught you? I think it's because of some ancient medicinal formula. Little Pig's beady eyes rolled around as he answered honestly. But he should ask that old man, Tian Mingzi, about this kind of thing. What's the point of asking me? I think he caught the wrong person. Little Pig said with a solemn expression. Ancient prescription. Luo Qingtong started to believe Little Pig's words. The injuries on that man's body were very strange. Luo Qingtong had seen all kinds of strange diseases in her previous life. However, this was the first time she saw such a strange condition on that man's body. The injuries on his meridians didn't seem like they were caused by someone. Moreover, there wasn't any trace of external energy in his body. However, the meridians in his body were breaking apart one after another. This was really strange. Moreover, that man didn't lack good medicine. Just the healing panacea alone was of a very high grade. However, it couldn't cure that man's injuries. It could only heal him temporarily and not cure the root cause. This was really strange. If it was said that he was looking for some ancient prescription to treat his injuries, then the credibility of this statement was still very high. Luo Qingtong thought about it and temporarily accepted Little Pig's explanation. However, she furrowed her brows. You really don't know about that ancient prescription? If I do, I'll just give it to that man. That way, he won't keep chasing me. Especially since he was so strong, Luo Qingtong also felt a pain in the ass for getting into such big trouble. If the strength of the experts in this world was like a mountain peak, then that man who could tear a divine beast apart with his bare hands was like Mount Everest. She was being chased by that man every day. No matter how handsome he was, she didn't want that. Could she still cultivate properly and become stronger in the future? No. Little Pig said resolutely with a face full of grievance. If I did, I wouldn't have to sign a contract with you to avoid him. This feeling of being in someone else's control was really annoying. Why was I so scared by that man that time? Little Pig felt depressed as he thought about it. Why? Are you feeling wronged? Luo Qingtong raised her eyebrows and sneered at it. If it wasn't for this pig, she wouldn't be chased by that man. She still hadn't settled the matter regarding the Immortal Slayer Palace. Little Pig looked at her, and the cold, bloodthirsty smile on his lips instantly withered. Who told me to choose such a master? I thought Luo Qingtong was young and easy to control. She also had some strange abilities that could help her avoid that man's detection. That was why I made a contract with her. But the result? Humph. I'll cry if I talk too much. Little Pig squatted there with its pair of little ears. Luo Qingtong did not bother with it anymore. Since I don't have that ancient prescription, I can only avoid that man from now on. Fortunately, she had spent more than 10 years in her previous life being chased and counter-chased, so she had a lot of experience in this. In comparison, that man was just a little stronger and harder to deal with, but there was nothing else. Chapter 111. Yi Qianxian returned to the mayor's residence with a cold face. Bei Qing and Feng Yu followed behind him, not even daring to breathe loudly. Everyone could tell that Yi Qianxian was in a bad mood. They were secretly guessing what had happened in the room. However, what Luo Qingtong had said earlier made their imaginations run wild. The two of them kept thinking about it, and their minds were filled with all kinds of horrifying things. But how could their master do such a thing? But, the evil doctor's words were indeed, the two of them kept thinking about it, and their minds were in a mess. Duo Ji Min's mind was like that of Feng Yu, but he couldn't figure out what had happened in the room that could make their master, who could remain calm even if Mount Tai collapsed, so angry. Bei Qing felt like a cat was scratching at his heart. He hadn't seen the girl who had forcefully kissed his master on Nine Shaman's Mountain, but he had seen with his own eyes how angry his master was because of the evil doctor. His master's face had turned black. How scary. Ever since, he had never seen his master so angry. What was even more strange was that the evil doctor was fine. He was fine. They were outside, but they didn't even hear a scream. All they saw was their master rushing out of the room. But thinking about it, it seemed normal. Bei Qing suddenly understood why his master didn't do anything to the evil doctor. He thought about how he and the others had also followed after his master as if they were running for their lives. They didn't even want to look into the room, let alone touch the evil doctor. Bei Qing suddenly understood why his master didn't do anything to the evil doctor. They were already disgusted when they heard what had happened outside, so their master was even more disgusted. He probably didn't even want to touch the evil doctor, let alone lay his hands on him. His lips twitched as he thought about it. He had received news from the bloody battle arena earlier, so he was a little curious about this evil doctor with extraordinary medical skills. But now, this trace of curiosity had shockingly been shattered into pieces. He didn't expect the evil doctor to be such an evil doctor. An old homosexual dared to covet his master. However, Bei Qing quickly thought that, according to the evil doctor's words, his master was the one who had done something to him first. When Bei Qing thought of this, he was confused again. That's impossible. Her master would never do such a thing. But, if it was the demonic doctor who had ill intentions towards master first, how could he still be alive to say those words to master? Thinking of this, Bei Qing was horrified again. Just as his mind was in a mess and his thoughts were running wild, Yi Qianxian suddenly stopped in his tracks. Keep a close eye on that evil doctor. I want to know his every move and every whereabouts. Yi Qianxian's voice was icy cold. This was the first time, other than that woman, he had suffered such a huge loss. The veins on Yi Qianxian's forehead bulged as he recalled the audacious words the evil doctor had said to him. Even with his self-control, he couldn't help but feel the anger in his heart. If it wasn't for the fact that the evil doctor was the only clue he had that had anything to do with that woman, he definitely wouldn't have let him off so easily. He actually dared to covet her. Tut tut tut. The veins on Yi Qianxian's forehead bulged violently. The next second, he waved his hand fiercely, and the explosion destroyed half of the square outside the mayor's mansion. Then, he angrily returned to his residence. As for Luo Qingtong, she was sleeping carelessly. In fact, she had dared to flirt with Yi Qianxian because she knew he wouldn't do anything to her. Otherwise, who would play with their lives like this? It was better to expose her identity than to court death. Flirting with carnivorous animals was very risky. But it seemed to be working well. Chapter 112. Luo Qingtong's lips twitched as she looked at the hidden figures inside and outside her residence. When she woke up early in the morning, she found that there were a bunch of powerful auras of unknown origins inside and outside her residence. These people probably thought that they were hiding very well. But in fact, under Luo Qingtong's eyes, their figures were as dazzling as fireflies in the dark night. She couldn't even pretend that she didn't see them. Forget it, she'll just treat them as free bodyguards sent by someone. Luo Qingtong ignored them and went straight out the door. She was going to the slave market to buy people today. It couldn't be helped. When Yi Qianxian and the others came yesterday, the people in her residence actually didn't notice anything. Luo Qingtong felt that she couldn't take it anymore. She didn't expect those people to be able to block Yi Qianxian and the others. After all, the latter and the others were powerful. But they should at least make some movements to let her know, right? Luo Qingtong didn't want to welcome uninvited guests in the middle of bathing in the future. If this went on, her identity would be exposed sooner or later. Lord Evil Doctor. When Luo Qingtong arrived at the slave market, someone recognized her and immediately reported to the manager of the slave market. The latter walked up to him with a chuckle. This Lord Evil Doctor was now one of the people who couldn't be offended in the Blackfield sub-city. News spread quickly in the Blackfield sub-city. Now, who didn't know that Master Lu of the auction house was greedy and wanted to exchange for Lord Evil Doctor's medicine? In the end, he was almost poisoned into a skeleton. It was said that even the 100-poison antidote pill of a heavenly alchemist couldn't cure the poison of Lord Evil Doctor. After seeing Master Lu's miserable state, who would dare to provoke this Lord Evil Doctor, who had first-rate medical and poison skills? They didn't want to die. Moreover, Lord Evil Doctor's refining skills were first-rate. In the future, they would have to rely on her for many things. The manager of the slave market treated Luo Qingtong very respectfully. Lord Evil Doctor, what kind of slaves do you want to buy? We have all kinds of slaves here. We guarantee that you will be satisfied in all aspects. The manager of the slave market said politely. Yes, I want to buy a battle slave that can guard the house. I want the strongest one. Luo Qingtong was not short of money. If she wanted to buy a slave, she would naturally buy the best one. However, the strength of the slaves supplied by each Blackfield sub-city was different. Generally, they would not exceed the level of the experts of the country where the Blackfield sub-city was located. In other words, the slaves that could be purchased in this Blackfield city of the eastern border country were at most at the Marshal Marquis level. Any higher and there was nothing left. This was also one of the agreements between the Blackfield and the 4 great holy dynasties. The 4 great sacred dynasties did not interfere with the matters of the Blackfield, but at the same time, the Blackfield could not destroy the balance of power between the various countries. This was a hidden rule that both sides were secretly protecting and abiding by. All right. Lord Evil Doctor, this way please. The manager of the slave market politely led the way in front. As he walked, he smiled and said to Luo Qingtong, Lord Evil Doctor, you came at the right time this time. We just received a new batch of goods. There are several Marshal Marquis experts among them. There is even a peak Marshal Marquis expert among them. They will definitely satisfy you. As the group of people spoke, they stepped into the slave selection plaza. The atmosphere here was very lively. There were slaves waiting to be selected and people choosing slaves everywhere. The battle slave that Luo Qingtong wanted to choose was on the other side. Chapter 113. The so-called war slaves were slaves that had been captured during the war. These people were tyrannical in strength and their bodies were strong. After being controlled by the Blackfield, they were absolutely loyal to their masters. They were very welcomed by those who entered the Blackfield. If Luo Qingtong hadn't come at the right time, the powerhouses in this group might have already been bought. A group of figures lined up in front of Luo Qingtong. There were nearly 100 people. Most of them were great generals, and only a few were Marshal Marquis level. Luo Qingtong looked at these people with extraordinary auras, but at this moment, their faces were numb and they had been reduced to slaves. She narrowed her eyes. These people, before becoming slaves, were all upper-class people of their own countries. These Marshal Marquis powerhouses, which one of them wasn't the same as Grandfather Luo? They were the rulers of their respective countries. Or they were the martial arts geniuses of their respective families. But because of the war, because of the destruction of their countries, these once proud sons of heaven had been reduced to slaves, unable to escape the control of their masters for the rest of their lives. Life and death, they were all in the hands of their masters. Luo Qingtong looked at these people and inexplicably thought of the Luo family and Grandfather Luo. In the true Spill continent, the strong were respected. Countries stood in great numbers, and battles were frequent. The expansion of the territory represented the expansion of the territory, and it also represented the increase of resources. Therefore, as long as a country or an aristocratic family lost power, there would immediately be a pack of hungry wolves attacking them, tearing them apart and swallowing them into their stomachs. For so many years, it wasn't that no one had the idea of attacking the Eastern Fence country and the Luo family, but because of the engagement between Luo Qingtong and Yuan Mo, they didn't dare to act rashly. Once the Luo family and the royal family of the Tianyu Empire broke off the engagement, then there would be so many evil people who wanted to attack them. But, as long as she was here, she would never let the Luo family fall into such a situation. Whoever dared to attack the Luo family and grandfather Luo, she would kill them. Even the Heavenly Emperor was no exception. Luo Qingtong narrowed her eyes as she sized up these people. Her gaze swept across the group of martial marquis experts standing at the very front. Suddenly, she met with a pair of unruly eyes. He had clearly been reduced to a slave. Even the peak martial marquis had a numb expression on his face. The man standing in the middle of the group, whose strength was only at the intermediate martial marquis level, stood perfectly straight. His pair of beautiful and somewhat feminine phoenix eyes coldly looked at Luo Qingtong. That pair of eyes contained too many things. There was unyieldingness, there was forbearance, and the most obvious was the arrogance. Luo Qingtong looked at the other party's eyes and thought of the lone wolf she had met in the Gobi Desert. His legs were broken, his teeth were ground out, and his eyes were blinded. However, he still fought with his mouth wide open until the last moment and killed the lion opposite him. Even if he had to die, he couldn't lose his dignity. A person with such eyes would definitely achieve great things in the future. Unfortunately, he was now a slave. Slaves didn't have any room for advancement. Their consciousness had already been locked down by the Blackfield special method of control. They couldn't disobey their master's orders, and they couldn't break free from the shackles to advance. This was to prevent them from becoming too strong in the future, breaking free from the slave imprint's control and hurting their master. The person who bought the slave only wanted an obedient dog. But now, this person, even in such a situation, was unwilling to admit defeat. Interesting. Chapter 114. I want all of these people. As she spoke, she walked in front of the man and lifted his chin. What's your name? Suyu. The man looked straight at the sinister Rakshasa mask on her face without the slightest bit of fear. On that feminine and somewhat overly beautiful face, there was an untamed look that was similar to the look in his eyes. Suyu? What a nice name. I like you. From now on, you can stay by my side and serve me. As Luo Qingtong spoke, her lips moved slightly, and a faintly discernible voice drilled into the man's ears. I know your identity. My name is Evil Eye. Remember it. From now on, I am your master. Luo Qingtong used her own voice to say these two sentences. As she spoke, she cut off the chains that bound the man's hands and feet. Lord Evil Doctor. The people in the slave market were caught off guard. This Suyu was the only troublemaker in this batch of goods. He was extremely untamed. They were just about to give Luo Qingtong some advice, but they didn't expect her to take a fancy to Suyu and promote him to be her personal servant. But they hadn't handed over the control of the slaves to Lord Evil Doctor yet. What if this Suyu attacked her? The other party had already injured several trainers when he came here. He was completely out of control. A group of people quickly rushed forward to protect Luo Qingtong. At this moment, Suyu moved. Then, everyone watched in surprise as he knelt on the ground. Suyu obeys Master's orders. From now on, I am Master's man in life and Master's ghost in death. The man knelt on the ground. The untamed look in his eyes was still there, but the subservience in them was genuine. No one had expected this to happen. Suyu had submitted. He was famous for being difficult to deal with. Previously, they wanted to tell Luo Qingtong that if she bought these people back, this Suyu would be used as cannon fodder to break through enemy lines. He definitely couldn't keep it by his side. Otherwise, even with the control of the slave imprint, the other party would not be so obedient. Who would have thought that Luo Qingtong would just casually say a few words and he would submit? Everyone was surprised, but Luo Qingtong didn't care. She looked indifferently at Suyu, who was kneeling in front of her, and said, "Remember your choice. I won't accept betrayal. Suyu will not betray Master." The man kneeling on the ground said in a deep voice. "Well then, get up and stand behind me." "Yes." Suyu stood up and stood behind Luo Qingtong expressionlessly. From the beginning to the end, there was not a single superfluous word. Luo Qingtong was very satisfied. Coming to the slave market was the right choice. She didn't look at Suyu again. Instead, she picked up another slave. This time, Luo Qingtong wanted to change all the people in her residence, so she bought close to 1,000 slaves from all sorts of places. In addition to a small number of handymen, she also bought about 500 general-level slaves in addition to Suyu and the others. After buying these slaves, the money that Luo Qingtong won from the bloody arena was reduced by half. More than half of it was spent on Suyu and the other high-level slaves. The money spent by the others was not as much as the Martial Marquis level slaves. Luo Qingtong couldn't help but sigh. Buying and selling slaves, especially high-level slaves, was really a money-burning and profiteering industry. Okay, take it off. Chapter 115. Suyu stood straight and firm in the room. His back was as straight as a javelin, full of the coldness of a soldier. Even his unbelievably beautiful face was as sharp as an unsheathed sword. Hearing Luo Qingtong's words, he was silent for a moment. Then he knelt down in front of Luo Qingtong. Swish! Suyu raised his hand to untie his hair, and at the same time, he pulled off the outer robe he was wearing. Master is perceptive. Suyu is a girl. His long black hair fluttered down like a waterfall, and Suyu's beautiful chest bulged with white cloth wrapped around it appeared in front of Luo Qingtong. The half-kneeling girl's clothes were half taken off, exposing her upper body. The lines of her muscles were extremely beautiful, firm and powerful, but not bulky. That feminine and beautiful face was full of determination and arrogance. If it weren't for the bulge in front of her chest, no one would believe that she was a girl. Master, when did you find out? Suyu's mood was complicated. She didn't know where she exposed herself. She had been disguised as a man for more than 10 years, and she had always been the face and pride of the Su family. No one had ever seen through her disguise. Even when she was sold as a slave, it was no exception. If Luo Qingtong hadn't seen through her identity, she wouldn't have surrendered so easily. She just didn't know how her master saw through her identity. You don't need to know this. Luo Qingtong narrowed her eyes at her. You only need to know that from now on, I am your only master. If she hadn't found out that Suyu was a girl, Luo Qingtong wouldn't have been so interested in her. A girl who wasn't willing to admit defeat in a pack of wolves. A girl who was sold as a slave, but still cleverly kept herself and her secrets. Luo Qingtong appreciated her very much. It just so happened that she lacked a personal attendant. She really liked people like Suyu who had wolf-like eyes and a persistent spirit. Because such a person wouldn't ask too much, wouldn't think too much, and wouldn't do unnecessary things. At the critical moment, she would be the sharpest knife in his hand. Usually, she was the least talkative guard. Most importantly, the other party's attire was compatible with both men and women. It was very suitable for him to stay by her side. Luo Qingtong didn't need people with high discernment around her. Suyu met the requirements of the people around her very well. You will follow me from now on. Come here. Luo Qingtong extended her hand to Suyu. The latter hesitated for a moment before stepping forward. At this moment, she felt a buzzing sound in her mind. Amidst the intense pain, it was as if something had been shattered. Master. Suyu's eyes suddenly widened. She could sense that the thing that was crushed was the control imprint in their minds under the Blackfield slave market. Master, she shattered the slave imprint in her mind. Why was that? Suyu looked at Luo Qingtong in shock. Master, don't ask why. I just don't like the life and death of my people being in the hands of others. Blackfield had said that they would hand over control, but who knew if there were any hidden hands behind their backs? The Blackfield slave trade was spread throughout the entire True Spill continent. Every country had slaves produced by the Blackfield. If these people could be controlled by the Blackfield, then it would be a big joke. Luo Qingtong didn't dare to underestimate the huge dark sanctuary. She shattered the slave imprint in Su Yu's mind because she didn't want to leave behind any future troubles. She never trusted anyone, no matter the means. Chapter 116. That's enough. You'll stay by my side from now on. Luo Qingtong's voice is indifferent. I don't care what your previous identity is, or what kind of hatred and background you have. But there's only one requirement for you to stay by my side. You'll be under my command, and everything will be under my command and will. In the future, when your cultivation is strong enough, you can take revenge on your own. I won't stop you. But you're not allowed to have any selfish motives by my side. Can you do it? Luo Qingtong looks at her indifferently. The blood-red light in her eyes flickers little by little. If Su Yu answers with a single word, then her end today will be very miserable. But Luo Qingtong believes that the other party won't make such a choice. This is a clever wolf-like woman. She has the unruliness of a wolf, but also the wisdom and intelligence of a wolf. Su Yu's everything belongs to Master. Please rest assured, Master. Su Yu kneels down. She has regained her freedom, so she should have left at all costs. But the girl in front of her gave her dignity and freedom, and broke the shackles of being a slave. Su Yu isn't someone who doesn't know how to repay kindness. She can also become strong by the girl's side. She can also take revenge. She's willing to offer her life and soul. Just for the new life that the other party has given her. Very good. Luo Qingtong nods indifferently. The other party has indeed made a good choice. In the future, you'll be in charge of everything around me. After those people from the slave market are sent here, you'll organize them into teams and patrol the residence. Oh, I'll give you a map. For the time being, you'll patrol according to the route on this map. When Luo Qingtong says this, it's unknown what she's thinking, but the corners of her lips curl up. That smile is really evil and wanton. If Yi Qianxian were here at this moment, he would definitely be vigilant in an instant. Because every time this woman tricked him, she would always smile like this. Su Yu quickly took over the defense of the entire residence. Luo Qingtong's authority over her is very relaxed. Su Yu didn't need to consult her about almost everything. She only needed to make a decision and then report it to her. Don't use people you don't suspect. Luo Qingtong wasn't afraid of Su Yu betraying her. She was confident that she could control everything when Su Yu betrayed her. Only the weak would be afraid of being overridden and deceived. The strong would always control everything in their hands. Su Yu was also very worthy of Luo Qingtong's trust. She took good care of her mansion. She used to be in charge of an army, and those battle slaves were arranged in an extremely orderly manner in her hands. Very soon, they began to patrol. However, those who were ordered to monitor Luo Qingtong suffered. The route drawn by Luo Qingtong was targeted at them. Ever since Su Yu had arranged for people to patrol the residence, the people who came to monitor Luo Qingtong had been chased away like chickens and dogs. There was no other way. Those people were running towards where they were hiding. Originally, they thought that their identities had been exposed. But when they took a closer look, those guards were just patrolling and passing by where they were hiding. There was no other way. Those people began to change locations. This won't do. They were scared witless every time. But speaking of which, it was also strange. When they changed locations, those guards also changed their patrol routes. Every time, there would always be a few routes that coincided with where they were hiding. Gradually, those who were in charge of monitoring Luo Qingtong were made to complain incessantly, but there was nothing they could do. On this day, Luo Qingtong stood in the room, watching those people in a state of chaos in the dark. She suddenly smiled and looked at Su Yu, who was standing beside her. Chapter 117. Yes. It's the heaven and earth dragon soul herb that you need. The person sent by the bloody arena said that the other party wants to see you. He said that he will only take out the heaven and earth dragon soul herb after seeing you. Su Yu's voice was cold and clear. It was very pleasant to listen to. Coupled with his firm and indifferent expression at the moment, he really looked like a handsome young master. He was beautiful, feminine, and heroic. Looking at him made people want to touch him. Unfortunately, this handsome and indifferent man was a woman. Luo Qingtong looked at him and shook her head. If this was known by others, it would break the hearts of many young girls. She suddenly thought of something and asked, Su Yu, have any girls pursued you before? Su Yu's voice suddenly stopped. Then he helplessly raised his head and said to Luo Qingtong, Master, I'm talking business with you. So, can't you be a bit more serious? Su Yu also didn't understand his master. He thought that the other party's character was evil and cold, and would be very difficult to serve. But in fact, when he really got along with her, Su Yu realized that Luo Qingtong's temperament was very changeable. Although she did things her own way, it was very easy to get along with her. In just a few days, the master and servant could already make some harmless jokes. Okay. Luo Qingtong folded her fingers and tapped them. The other party wants to see me, right? Tell the people of the bloody arena that I will go there. Heaven and Earth Dragon Soul Herb. It was one of the antidote herbs that Luo Qingtong needed. The antidote herbs she needed were mixed in the list she gave to the bloody arena. If it was other herbs, Luo Qingtong would refuse. But since it was this herb, Luo Qingtong had to go there in person. After all, this was the first herb she found that could detoxify the poison in her eyes. Maybe she could find other herbs through the other party. To be honest, after coming to the Black Field, Luo Qingtong knew how precious the antidote herbs she was looking for were. In the whole Black Field, there were so many cities, but she still couldn't find the antidote herbs she needed for so long. She had collected a lot of other herbs. But for Luo Qingtong, those were just tricks. They were useless. The antidote couldn't be taken out by ordinary people. Ordinary antidotes were very difficult to detoxify. However, the herbs used in the poison that she was afflicted with were incomparably precious. There was someone behind the royal family of Tianyu. Interesting. He thought that it was just a simple plot by a concubine's daughter who was jealous of the first wife's daughter. It would be enough if the royal family of Tianyu was involved. The person who took out the ultimate medicine and ultimate poison must have a very honorable status. Otherwise, they wouldn't have used so many precious medicinal ingredients on top of the ultimate medicine and ultimate poison. But it didn't matter. She had plenty of time. And one by one. Let's go. Luo Qingtong put on her cloak and ferocious Rakshasa mask and went out. Since she subdued Su Yu, Luo Qingtong was a lot more relaxed. Occasionally, she would show her real face in the room to let her skin breathe. Anyway, if someone broke in, according to Luo Qingtong's arrangement, there would be a warning. Luo Qingtong had enough time to react. Yes. Su Yu responded and followed her with a straight posture. Chapter 118. In the VIP room of the bloody battle arena, an old man was standing with his hands behind his back, waiting for Luo Qingtong's arrival. Suddenly, he seemed to have sensed something. He raised his head to look somewhere in the air and smiled. Ming Zun. If someone else was here, they would be shocked to find that the old man's attitude was very casual. He did not seem to be afraid of the Blackfield's supreme ruler. Obviously, he was an expert on the same level as Ming Zun. You can't touch him. Yi Qinshan's voice came from the other side of the air. This was clearly an extremely advanced sound transmission technique. His figure didn't even appear here. Oh, that evil doctor. The old man's voice was surprised. He did not expect Ming Zun to send a sound transmission just to warn him not to touch the evil doctor. He's from the Black Field. Yi Qinshan's voice was cold. He did not touch the evil doctor. Naturally, he would not allow anyone to touch him. After all, that was the only clue he had that could lead him to that woman. My lord, you've misunderstood. The old man smiled warmly. After that moment of surprise, his expression returned to normal. I'm here to see what kind of person the evil doctor is. He doesn't know anything about alchemy, but he can enter the pinnacle state and refine the supreme-grade medicinal liquid. He smiled. I won't find trouble with him. It's just that I can't help but feel itchy when I see such a genius. Yi Qianxian did not say anything else. The intimidating aura in the air retreated. Interesting. I didn't expect Ming Zun to value that evil doctor so much. It makes me even more curious. The old man smiled and talked to himself in the quiet room. He was looking forward to Luo Qingtong's arrival. No one had ever attracted Ming Zun's attention. This evil doctor was quite capable. The capable Lord Evil Doctor, Luo Qingtong, pushed the door open and walked in at this moment. As soon as she entered, she saw the old man standing in the middle looking at her meaningfully. Luo Qingtong had goosebumps all over her body. The old man's gaze was too strange. The meaning of, "I'm interested in you," was too strong. Could he be an old homosexual? She likes me? Luo Qingtong got goosebumps as she thought about it. She wanted to leave the heaven and earth dragon soul herb behind and leave immediately. Fortunately, the old man spoke up in time and broke the misunderstanding. You are the evil doctor? This old man has seen the profound origin heart elixir that you refined. You are not an alchemist, yet you are able to enter the extreme realm and refine such a transcendent medicinal elixir. This is truly amazing. He did not mention anything about Underworld Venerable. Since Underworld Venerable chose to speak to him in a place where no one was around, he naturally did not want others to know about it. Since that was the case, there was no need for him to say anything more. Luo Qingtong breathed a sigh of relief. It turned out that he had seen through the mysteries of her alchemy technique. It was fine as long as he wasn't a homosexual. You flatter me. May I know the reason for your visit this time? As soon as Luo Qingtong's voice came out, the old man was instantly shocked. Then, he looked at her even more meaningfully. It is said that the evil doctor's medical skills are extraordinary. I wonder if you can cure my injuries? He clasped his hands behind his back and looked at Luo Qingtong. If you can, this old man will give you the heaven and earth dragon soul herb with both hands. The old man's face was full of excitement. He did not look like he was here to ask for treatment. Instead, he looked like he was here to test Luo Qingtong. Luo Qingtong looked at his expression and the corners of her mouth twitched. Why was this old man behaving so strangely? But she did not care about this. She heard that as long as she cured his injuries, she could get the heaven and earth dragon soul herb. She immediately used her pupil technique to look at him. After looking at him, Luo Qingtong turned around and left. Chapter 119. Hey! Little girl. Wait a minute. Seeing Luo Qingtong turn around and leave so quickly, the old man was caught off guard. The old man was caught off guard and hurriedly shouted. In a flash, he stood in front of her. You haven't checked my injuries yet. Just say you can't cure it. How could there be such a thing? No need. I can't cure it. Luo Qingtong said firmly. This old man was making fun of her. There were several violent and ferocious forces in his body, which were extremely destructive. They were wandering around in his meridians and bones. He had to rely on his own strength to suppress them. Although Luo Qingtong couldn't tell what level of strength the force belonged to, she could tell that it was not something an ordinary person could touch. If someone who wasn't strong enough touched it, he or she might be blown up into nothingness. In short, this old man was not an ordinary expert. The injuries on his body were not caused by ordinary people. How could Luo Qingtong cure it? It was not that she couldn't cure it, but she couldn't cure it now. The strength in her body was not enough. To cure the old man's injuries, she had to expose the secret of her pupil technique. Moreover, she needed several experts who were as strong as this old man to assist her. She had to go through so much trouble for a heaven and earth dragon soul herb. She even exposed her biggest secret in front of others. She was not stupid. Therefore, after taking a look at the old man's injuries, Luo Qingtong firmly replied that she couldn't cure it. No. You didn't check the injuries and said you couldn't cure it. I can't accept it. How could the old man stand Luo Qingtong like this? He wanted to give Luo Qingtong a good test. But he didn't expect her to do this to him. Who said I didn't check it? Seeing that he kept stopping her, Luo Qingtong frowned. She didn't want to be entangled with him anymore. She didn't need to expose her pupil technique. She still had a way to make the old man retreat. Your breath is deep and there is a sound of thunder mixed with some noise. It can be seen that the breath in your body is intertwined with a tyrannical force. Look at your palm again. Luo Qingtong pointed at his hand that was blocking her. Fingernails are greenish-black with a straight line upwards. Her skin was fair and loose. It can be seen that you usually take good care of your health. You are vigorous and full of energy. You protect and strengthen your body. However, he suffered a serious injury and suffered a powerful backlash. Now, he is completely relying on his own strength to suppress it. That's why your palms and skin look so old. If I'm not mistaken. Luo Qingtong raised her eyebrows. You were at least 10 times younger than you are now? The old man's beard trembled. Luo Qingtong's every word was hammered into his heart. She had actually said it without missing a single word. It turned out that she wasn't just saying it casually. She really could tell that she couldn't treat his injuries. The old man looked surprised. Before he came, he had heard about how miraculous the evil doctor in the black field was. A bottle of medicine was able to bring the dead back to life and save a person who was bound to die. At that time, he didn't take it to heart because he had seen the medicine. It just happened to treat the other party's fatal injuries. It wasn't as mystical as the rumor said, that it could bring the dead back to life. But because of this, it had piqued his interest and he had specially come to see this evil doctor. He didn't expect that the other party's medical skills would be so beyond his expectations. Just by looking at him, he was able to tell how serious his internal injuries were from his external appearance. Chapter 120. He was already looking at Luo Qingtong in a new light because of Ming Zun's protection. Now that he saw her outstanding medical skills, he was even more excited. Good, good, good. He looked at Luo Qingtong with a face full of joy and smiles. Good. Little doll. I didn't expect your medical skills to be so good. You're right. My internal injuries are very serious, and you can't cure it. His, you can't cure it, was different from Luo Qingtong's, I can't cure it. The old man thought she couldn't cure it. But Luo Qingtong knew that she could cure it. But if she wanted to cure it now, she would have to expose her eye technique ability and expose herself in front of everyone. She would never do such a thing. When her ability was exposed in her previous life, it attracted many people who wanted to kill her. She finally had a stable life in this life. She was determined not to expose it. Let the other party think she couldn't cure it. Yes. I said I can't cure it. Luo Qingtong said and was about to walk out. Wait. The old man stopped her and threw a brocade box to her. He laughed and said, although you can't cure it, it's not your fault. I'm not someone who bullies little doll. This heaven and earth dragon soul grass is for you. Yes. There's another thing I want to give you in it. I hope you can make good use of it. Little doll, the world outside is very big. Your talent is so good, don't waste it. He said meaningfully and walked out with a smile while stroking his beard. This is so strange. Luo Qingtong was depressed. She looked at the brocade box in her hand. Obviously, it contained the heaven and earth dragon soul grass. But why did the old man give it to her? Just because she mentioned his injuries? Luo Qingtong frowned and couldn't figure it out. This old man had been acting weird since she came in, and he even called her a little doll. Wait. Luo Qingtong's body stiffened in an instant. Did that old man see through her identity? Damn. Luckily, there was no one around. Luo Qingtong glanced around the room and used her Do technique to make sure that no one else had heard her conversation with the old man. Only then did she breathe a sigh of relief. It was not that she was nervous, but that man, the man she had offended in the 9 Magi Mountains, was also in the Blackfield sub-city. Fortunately, there was no one else around when he met with the old man. Otherwise, his identity would have been exposed. This meeting was so secretive and short. No matter how resourceful that man was, he wouldn't know, right? Thinking of this, she calmed down. It would be terrible if that man found out. Luo Qingtong absolutely did not want to be caught by him. Although the other party's target was Little Pig was her lifeline. Luo Qingtong would never give it to him. As for himself, he had offended him so many times before. If he was caught, he wouldn't have a good time either. Thinking of this, Luo Qingtong walked out of the VIP room with palpitations. What she didn't know was that several thousand meters away, in the city lord's mansion, with a snap, Yi Qianren, who had been paying attention to the movements in the private room, crushed the Taotai paperweight in her hand. Little, doll? Supreme Blackfield's face was dark and gloomy. Every word he spat out was filled with unspeakable coldness. That demonic doctor wasn't an old man at all. Was he that woman's disguise to deceive him? Thinking that he might have been deceived again, Yi Qianxian's heart burned with anger. Pass down this Supreme's order. Invite the demonic doctor into the mansion. Chapter 121. In the bloody arena, Luo Qingtong exits the VIP room and leaves with Su Yu, who is waiting for her outside the door. Just as the two of them reach the entrance, a black shadow suddenly pounces over from the side. Lord Demonic Doctor. Be careful, Master. Su Yu suddenly raises her eyes and blocks in front of Luo Qingtong. She raises her hand and slashes at the pouncing figure. Wait. Luo Qingtong finds the voice a bit familiar and calls out to stop her. Soon after, the figure pounces in front of her. Lord Demonic Doctor, please save my mother. I beg you. The figure is tall and sturdy. At this moment, he is kneeling in front of her. The big guy is curled up like a shrimp and desperately kowtows to her. Luo Qingtong looks at him and frowns. Chu Lingfeng. Luo Qingtong recognizes the other party. Isn't this the blockhead that she saved in order to make a name for herself in the bloody arena? Save his mother? Isn't his mother dead? Asking her to save a dead person? If she didn't know that this Chu Lingfeng is a little silly, Luo Qingtong would have thought that the other party is here to ruin her reputation. I can't save the dead. You can go. Luo Qingtong takes Su Yu and prepares to go around Chu Lingfeng. She is a demonic doctor, not an immortal. What's more, even an immortal can't save a person who has been dead for several days. This Chu Lingfeng really knows how to find trouble for himself. When Luo Qingtong entered the bloody arena, she saw this blockhead kneeling on the side and falling asleep. She doesn't know how long he has been kneeling with his body covered in dust. She didn't expect that he was waiting for her. However, the dead can't be saved. It's useless even if he kneels to death here. No. Lord Demonic Doctor. My mother is not dead. She is still alive. They are all talking nonsense. My mother is still sitting beside me and smiling at me. She's not dead. Seeing that Luo Qingtong was about to leave, Chu Lingfeng took a few steps forward on his knees and hugged her leg. He said incoherently, Lord Evil Doctor, I know you are a good person. I was about to die in the arena and you saved me. The people in the arena treated me very well and gave me a lot of good things. I know it's all because of you. Can you save my mother? She was really dying. Her figure was already very, very faint. Lord Evil Doctor, if you save my mother, I'll sell myself to you. I'm very powerful. I don't need to eat so much, but I can do a lot of work. Otherwise, if you sell me to the fighting arena, I'll definitely be very, very serious. I'm not afraid of pain. You can break a few of my bones, and I'll fight you no matter how heavy the injuries are. I can make you a lot of money. As long as you save my mom. Lord Evil Doctor, I beg you. I beg you. You have to save her. Such a big guy was hugging Luo Qingtong's thigh and crying like a child. He looked silly and pitiful, like a big dog that had been abandoned by its owner. Suyu couldn't bear to see him like this. She also knew a little about Luo Qingtong's fame. She knew that this big fool was about to be beaten to death at that time, and it was her master who saved him. So he was seriously injured in the arena to fight for others and earn money to treat her mother's illness? Although he was a fool, he was also a filial son. Master. Suyu looked at Luo Qingtong. Although the dead couldn't be saved, it wasn't a big deal for her master to take a look. Alright, go take a look. Luo Qingtong wasn't moved by Suyu's words, but Chu Lingfeng's words made her a little interested. She wasn't dead, her figure was becoming more and more transparent. This situation. Chapter 122. Master. This is the place. After receiving Luo Qingtong's approval, Chu Lingfeng was overjoyed. He automatically followed Suyu and called her master. No matter how she corrected him, he wouldn't listen. In his opinion, since Luo Qingtong agreed to save his mother, he was her person. Luo Qingtong's lips twitched when she heard this. Why did these words sound so ambiguous? However, although this blockhead was a bit stupid, he was loyal and pure. Luo Qingtong didn't mind keeping him by her side. Moreover, this blockhead wasn't completely useless. Luo Qingtong discovered that Chu Lingfeng's recovery ability was very amazing. She had just pulled him back from the brink of death a few days ago. It had only been a few days, but he was already alive and kicking. The huge wound on his abdomen had healed without leaving a scar. Luo Qingtong had never seen anyone with such a strong recovery ability. With some nurturing in the future, it wasn't impossible for him to become a capable person. The group of people walked into a dilapidated room. Inside, there were only 4 bare walls. Apart from a bed made of wooden planks, there was only a tattered straw mat. Chu Lingfeng cheerfully rushed into the room like a big dog. He happily shouted, "Mother! Mother! I brought Master to see you. You'll be fine. You'll definitely get better." Chu Lingfeng was in high spirits. Suyu, who was behind him, frowned. She could naturally feel that apart from the 3 of them, there was no one else in the room. The middle-aged woman on the wooden plank bed in front of them was indeed dead. "Blockhead, your mother is already dead." Before she came, she thought that Chu Lingfeng's mother was really, as he said, not dead. But now it seemed that Chu Lingfeng's obsession was too deep, and he was hallucinating. Thinking of this, Suyu sighed. Nonsense. Chu Lingfeng glared at Suyu. "My mother didn't die. She's sitting right next to me, talking to me. You're not the master. You don't even know how to treat illnesses. How did you know?" As he spoke, he angrily turned his head to look at Luo Qingtong and asked, "Mistress, you can see my mother, right? She's right beside me now. She's not dead yet." Chu Lingfeng regarded Luo Qingtong's words as a precious jade. He believed that his master would definitely be able to see his mother. She must be able to save her mother's life. Chu Lingfeng firmly believed. "Yes, I can see that your mother is not dead yet." Luo Qingtong squinted at Chu Lingfeng's side. Beside him, there was a faint, smoke-like shadow. Although the shadow was very faint, one could vaguely see that the outline of the shadow was Chu Lingfeng's mother. This was Chu Lingfeng's mother's soul. This blockhead didn't lie, his mother really wasn't dead yet. But now, there was no difference between her and being dead. The soul detachment illness is really rare. Luo Qingtong walked straight over. Chu Lingfeng's mother's soul was unconscious, sitting next to Chu Lingfeng, looking at him with an indescribable love in her eyes. Luo Qingtong only took a glance and knew that the other party was in a very strange state at the moment. She seemed to be dead yet not dead, like a soul yet not a soul, like a ghost yet not a ghost. Luo Qingtong had only seen the introduction of the soul detachment illness in ancient books before, so her interest was piqued. Chapter 123. In Chu Lingfeng's mother's body, there was still a sliver of life. Sure enough, the soul detachment illness was caused by the soul being sucked out of the body due to certain reasons. Although the soul had left the body, because the person's life was not meant to end, there would be a sliver of life left in the body. However, this sliver of life was very weak. If the soul of the person with the soul detachment illness did not return to the body in time, this sliver of life would slowly dissipate. Finally, it would completely disappear. Now, Chu Lingfeng's mother was in such a situation. The sliver of life in her body was about to disappear completely. Therefore, the shadow of the soul was so faint. However, since Luo Qingtong already knew what was going on, and knew where the sliver of life was in her body, she naturally knew how to treat it. "Give me your hand," she said to Chu Lingfeng. When the man heard this, he immediately stretched out his hand without hesitation. "Master, is one enough? If not, I still have more." Luo Qingtong's lips twitched when she heard this. This blockhead, did he think that he was selling pickled pork knuckles? If one was not enough, then another? Enough. She only wanted some of Chu Lingfeng's blood. Men were yang by nature, especially Chu Lingfeng's body, which was full of yang energy. This kind of blood would be of great use to her next move. While speaking, Luo Qingtong held his hand and drew a line with her finger. In an instant, hot blood splashed out from Chu Lingfeng's wrist. Along with the blood that flew out, Luo Qingtong raised her hand and hurriedly drew a few symbols in the air. Then, she suddenly raised her hand. "Quick!" Following her clear shout, those symbols drawn with blood instantly entered the body of Chu Lingfeng's mother. Then, Luo Qingtong pushed the soul of his mother forward. The moment it entered the body, she fiercely bit her index finger and pointed at her forehead. Then, she quickly drew an extremely complicated and simple rune on her mother's forehead. Set. The moment the talisman was formed, Chu Lingfeng's mother's soul, which was about to be expelled from her body, was quickly pushed back and fixed in her body. In an instant, the lifeless woman lying on the bed regained her breath and heartbeat after Luo Qingtong's actions. His complexion slowly turned rosy. Although it still had a pale, greenish-black color, it was still alive. "All right." Withdrawing her hand, Luo Qingtong took the handkerchief handed over by Su Yu and wiped her hand. Then, she said to Chu Lingfeng, who was dumbfounded, "Your mother is fine now. However, I can't wake up for now. I have to properly recuperate and replenish my soul power." After all, that soul had stayed outside for too long and had suffered too much damage. "Yes. Yes. I know. Master. Really, thank you so much." Chu Lingfeng was so happy that he didn't know what to do. He circled around Luo Qingtong like a big wolf dog and almost rushed up to kneel and lick her. How could Master be so powerful? She must be a celestial being from the heavens. To be able to save his mother. Chu Lingfeng wasn't completely brainless. His mother's situation, so many people came and said that she was already dead. Even the Earth Stage alchemist in the Blackfield sub-city, he had spent a huge amount of money to invite someone to take a look. They all said that there was no hope for his mother. If it wasn't for the fact that he could see his mother by his side, he might have believed those people's words. Only Master. With one look, he knew that his mother wasn't dead. Master was the most powerful person in the world. Chapter 124. Su Yu, who was watching from the side, was also shocked. She had seen with her own eyes how Chu Lingfeng's mother had regained her breath. Could it be that Master could really come back from the dead? For a moment, Su Yu was also stunned. Luo Qingtong didn't explain to them. Even if she did, they wouldn't understand. For many people, Chu Lingfeng's mother should already be a dead person. But for her, as long as there was still life, then she wasn't considered a dead person. How did your mother become like this? Compared to the shock of the two, Luo Qingtong was more curious about the reason why Chu Lingfeng's mother became like this. One must know that the soul detachment illness wasn't an illness that appeared easily. For Chu Lingfeng's mother to be like this, there must be some external force that sucked out her soul, causing her to become like this. Luo Qingtong was very interested in this so-called external force. I don't know. Chu Lingfeng said very honestly. This blockhead didn't know what was called lying. He scratched his head and said, when I came back some time ago, I found that my mother had become like this. As for the specific reason, I don't know. He said honestly, but I heard from Uncle Li next door that my mother fell ill. Not long after she went out with the team of the Chamber of Commerce next door to gather medicinal herbs, she fell ill when she came back. After that, she became like this. Gathering medicinal herbs? Luo Qingtong raised her eyebrows. Are those medicinal herbs that your mother gathered still there? No. Chu Lingfeng scratched his head and said, those medicinal herbs were handed over to the Chamber of Commerce. Ah. Master, wait. When my mother came back, she was holding something and told me not to touch it. As he spoke, he quickly got up and wandered around the empty room. Then Luo Qingtong and Suyu saw him pull out a small cloth bag from the corner of the wall like magic. Mistress, look, this is it. Chu Lingfeng excitedly ran back to Luo Qingtong with the small cloth bag. Luo Qingtong raised her hand and took the small cloth bag. When she opened it, she saw a black object that looked like tree bark. This thing's aura. Luo Qingtong raised her hand and picked it up. Master. Su Yu and Chu Lingfeng were shocked. Especially Chu Lingfeng. His mother had said that he must not touch this thing. If Master went to take it like this, would something happen? He was anxious and wanted to snatch the piece of black bark from Luo Qingtong's hand. However, he saw that Luo Qingtong raised her hand and crushed the piece of black bark into powder. I see. Luo Qingtong's eyes flashed with a bloody light. She had just completely analyzed the black bark-like object with her eye technique. 1,000-year soul guiding wood. It turned out that this was the thing that had sucked out the soul of Chu Lingfeng's mother. It seemed that his mother's life was quite good. Generally, the soul that was sucked out by the 1,000-year soul guiding wood would be bound around it for eternity, unable to reincarnate. This 1,000-year soul guiding wood could be said to be the most evil thing in the world. However, for Luo Qingtong, this 1,000-year soul guiding wood was a rare good thing. As long as one could suppress its soul-sucking power, this 1,000-year soul guiding wood was an excellent treasure. It had a great effect on a cultivator's comprehension of the realm. Not only that, wearing it on one's body could also naturally nurture the cultivator's soul. There were all kinds of benefits. Thinking of this, Luo Qingtong asked Chu Lingfeng about the specific location where his mother gathered the herbs and prepared to leave the city. However, before she could reach the city gate, she was stopped by someone. Chapter 125. In front of her. All of them were Martial Marquis realm experts, wearing the black-field silver-rimmed uniforms. They stood respectfully in front of Luo Qingtong. Their outstanding momentum and unyielding figure showed their determination to invite Luo Qingtong this time. My lord? Hearing their words, Luo Qingtong raised her eyebrows and thought. Mingzun? The supreme master of the Black Field, the peerless expert. Why does he want to invite me? To refine medicine? Luo Qingtong's mind spun rapidly, but she nodded calmly on the surface. Okay, lead the way. No matter why he wants to see me, he won't kill me. However, Luo Qingtong didn't know that this was more important than her life. They came to the city master's mansion. Luo Qingtong was led into a magnificent hall by the attendant. Please wait here. My lord will be here soon. Luo Qingtong nodded and then looked around the hall. This should be the hall where the city master usually discussed matters. But now, It was used by Ming Zun as a place to rest and receive guests. Luo Qingtong glanced at the high platform in front of her. Suddenly, her eyes paused. Through her eyes, she saw clearly that there was a stack of albums on the high platform. On the third album that was pressed at the top, there was a picture of a fruit that looked like a jasper. The core of the fruit was heart-shaped. It was crimson inside and covered with a layer of jasper on the outside. Heaven Heart Jasper Fruit. Luo Qingtong's eyes lit up. This was one of the antidotes she was looking for. She had already got a Heaven and Earth Dragon Soul Herb. And this Heaven Heart Jasper Fruit. Then she would have 2 antidotes in her hands. In the future, if she had the opportunity to get medicinal herbs that could replace the medicinal properties, she might be able to detoxify the poison directly. Thinking of this, she began to calculate. If Ming Zun had asked her to refine medicine, what were the chances of her asking for this Heaven Heart Green Jade Fruit as the antidote? Just as she was thinking, her eyes suddenly caught a glimpse of a prescription under the stack of diagrams. Could this prescription be the medicine that Ming Zun wanted him to refine? Luo Qingtong thinks about it and starts to read it. However, the more she looked, the stranger her expression became. By the end, Luo Qingtong's lips were twitching and she didn't know what to say. *T. This prescription, wasn't this prescription the prescription for the Xianyuan heart liquid that she had refined? How could Ming Zun's table have the prescription for the Xianyuan heart liquid that he had refined himself? And it was so detailed. The required herbs and medicinal properties were exactly the same. In fact, he had even written down the medicinal properties that he had added and the medicinal herbs that he had replaced. How did these underworld venerables know? Other than himself, only that man from 9 Magi Mountain would know about this. Wait a minute. Luo Qingtong's body stiffened instantly. Ming Zun. That man from 9 Magi Mountain, he had the same powerful means, the same undetectable power, and the same tyrannical power. Damn! Could that man from 9 Magi Mountain be Ming Zun? This thought flashed through Luo Qingtong's mind and she was so frightened that her hair stood on end. Oh no, oh no. That man was definitely up to no good. He was disgusted by her just now. Why did he look for her this time? Could he be suspecting her identity again? Chapter 126. Of the 36 stratagems, leaving was the best stratagem. She'd better leave first. While that man hasn't come yet. Thinking of this, Luo Qingtong quickly got up and was about to leave. At this moment, a figure exuding an indescribable power stepped in from outside. Where do you think you're going in front of this sovereign? Yi Qianqian's gaze was cold. Luo Qingtong turned around and met his cold gaze hidden behind the dark gold mask. In an instant, she was like a prey being targeted by a hunter. A chill ran down her spine. This man was really starting to suspect her. It was different from the time when he came looking for her because of the Xianyuan E solution. Luo Qingtong could clearly feel the difference. If at that time Yi Qianxian was only a little suspicious of her identity, then now, it was 70 to 80%. Looking at the man's cold and penetrating gaze, as if he was hunting his prey, Luo Qingtong's body stiffened. Where did she get exposed? She was vexed in her heart. Luo Qingtong felt that her ability to disguise herself wasn't bad. Furthermore, when Yi Qianxian was disgusted and left, he had clearly accepted her identity as the evil doctor, old man. Why did he suddenly suspect her? Luo Qingtong sifted through the possibilities and finally gritted her teeth as she set her sights on the strange old man she met before. It was that stinky old man who exposed her identity. What do you mean by little baby? This man must have eavesdropped on it. Luo Qingtong thought of this and cursed Yi Qianxian in her heart for being a perverted voyeur. Did he dare to not pay so much attention to her? She thought that he was so disgusted that he wouldn't pay attention to her for a short period of time. She didn't expect his resistance to be so strong. How long has it been? He actually peeped on her again. Simply perverted. Luo Qingtong was depressed. If she had known, she would have been a little more hardcore. She would have made this man so disgusted that he would run away when he saw her. It would have saved him the trouble of thinking about her every day. She had gone too easy on him previously. Luo Qingtong thought for a while and gnashed her teeth. At the same time, Yi Qianxian slowly approached her. He lowered his head. His height of nearly 1.9 meters gave her a huge sense of oppression as he looked down at her from above. What's wrong? Not saying anything? I really want to know what other tricks you can play this time. His voice was cold. Luo Qingtong listened and cursed in her heart. I have a lot of tricks up my sleeve. If you have the ability, suppress your strength to the same level as mine. See how I play until you start doubting your life. However, although she dared to think this way, she didn't dare to say it out loud. The person in front of him was not someone to be trifled with. He had single-handedly created the Black Field, standing on equal footing with the 4 great holy dynasties. The man in front of him, even saying that he could summon the wind and summon the rain, was not enough to describe his valiance. Not to mention the other party's terrifying martial strength. Luo Qingtong thinks it over and over again. She still thinks it's better if she doesn't confess. Haven't you heard of this saying? If you confess, you'll be in jail for a long time. If you resist, you'll be punished severely and go home for the new year. Thinking of the more and more things she did to this man, Luo Qingtong felt that she had to resist to the end. Until the last moment, she would not give up struggling. Ha, ha. Lord, this old man doesn't know what you're talking about. She closed her eyes and pretended to be ignorant. Chapter 127. Shut up. Hearing her mention that night, Yi Qianxian's expression turned even colder. Thinking about what this person did that night, the veins on his forehead popped, but he quickly suppressed them. It seems like you're going to continue pretending? He said coldly. No, Lord, I really don't know what you're talking about. Luo Qingtong tried her best to make a final struggle as her mind raced. Oh my God. Who could tell her what she should do in this situation? How could she muddle her way through? Yi Qianxian pressed on, forcing Luo Qingtong into a corner, but she still couldn't think of a good idea. At this moment, the man's cold voice sounded. Do you want to take it off yourself, or do you want this lord to take it off for you? This was clearly a statement. It wasn't a question. Luo Qingtong looked at the man's face in front of her and cursed in her heart. What the F***ck, what the F***ck. Was there a difference between the two? She was still going to be exposed. Begging for a third option. Wait a minute. Suddenly, Luo Qingtong thought of something. Hidden behind the Rakshasa mask, her eyes suddenly lit up and a blood-red light flashed through them. How could she forget that? There was a way. Lord, actually, this old man is really unbearably vulgar. My face is ugly, and I'm as thin as firewood. I'm afraid I'll dirty your eyes. Luo Qingtong talked about this and that in a deadpan manner, pretending that she didn't know anything. Seeing Yi Qianxian's expression turn cold and impatient as he raised his hand to grab her, she suddenly shouted, Wait. I'll take it off. I'll take it off myself. As she spoke, she took off the Rakshasa mask covering her face. At the same time, her eyes flashed and she used the power that Tian Mingzi left in her eyes to temporarily restore her eyes. Whoosh! The mask was taken off. Yi Qianxian's outstretched hand stopped in midair. He frowned as he looked at the face in front of him. In the man's condescending gaze, what was reflected was a devilishly beautiful young man's face. When Luo Qingtong went out this time, she didn't disguise herself as an old man in order to let her skin breathe. How could she have known that the old man she went to see was such a scammer? Her identity was exposed in an instant. Fortunately, she had a backup plan. Otherwise, he would be dead for sure this time. All right. I admit that the High Lord has seen through me. How did the High Lord find out? Luo Qingtong deliberately blinked her eyes and asked Yi Qianxian. In order to see clearly, she even blinked a few more times. Look carefully. My eyes are fine. Yi Qianxian ignored her. He stared at her. The young man in front of him was devilishly beautiful. Luo Qingtong's face was originally beautiful. Now that she was dressed as a man, when her eyebrows were raised, it accentuated her imposing manner even more. Coupled with her mixture of male and female, devilishly charming and unrestrained temperament, it made her male disguise even more handsome and enchanting. If Yi Qianren's temperament was noble, elegant, and domineering, then Yi Qianren's temperament was noble, elegant, and overbearing. Luo Qingtong's youthful temperament was enchanting, devilishly charming and unrestrained. In this world, there was a kind of elegance that had nothing to do with gender. When she was a woman, Luo Qingtong could turn all living things upside down and bring disaster to countries and people. When she was a man, she could still turn the world upside down and make countless men and women bow down to her. But Yi Qianxian didn't seem to see this at all. He looked deeply into Luo Qingtong's eyes. Chapter 128. Whoosh. He lifted his hand and grabbed Luo Qingtong's chin, pulling her closer to him. At the same time, he used his other hand to rub the corner of her eye. Following his movements, the light in his eyes flowed freely and naturally. It wasn't her. Yi Qianxian was disappointed. He was already sure that the evil doctor was that woman in disguise. But now, the other party was obviously a teenager, and her eyes were intact. Yi Qianxian let go of his hand. At this moment, Luo Qingtong grabbed him. Wait. My lord, you haven't answered my question. Let go. Yi Qianxian's gaze was cold. After confirming that the person in front of him wasn't that woman, his last bit of patience was gone. If she wasn't that woman, she didn't have the right to waste his time. But how could Luo Qingtong let him off so easily? What the f***ck? This man was always suspicious of this and that. She was so scared that she was about to have a heart attack. If she hadn't been quick-witted and suddenly remembered that Tian Mingzi had left a trace of power in her eyes to heal them temporarily, she would have been caught. It would be strange if she let him off so easily. My lord. Luo Qingtong grabbed Yi Qianxian's sleeve so tightly that she almost tied a knot. You've been paying so much attention to me. She said shyly, Is it because you admire me? Instantly, Yi Qianxian paused in his action of shaking her off. Outside, Bei Qing and the others who were rushing over to report also stopped abruptly. Oh my God. What did they just hear? The group of people looked at each other in shock. Then, they stood there with their eyes lowered and their noses lowered, not daring to move forward anymore. They were afraid that they would hear something terrible again. After all, there was only their master and the evil doctor in the main hall. Luo Qingtong also heard the commotion outside at this moment. She rolled her eyes, and before Yi Qianxian could say anything, she shouted, You're so annoying. My lord, don't be embarrassed to admit it. I know you adore me. Otherwise, why did you sneak into my bathroom in the middle of the night? Just a moment ago, she kept telling me to take off my clothes. It's so embarrassing. Luo Qingtong was using her old and hoarse voice. Besides, other than Yi Qianxian, no one else knew that she wasn't an old man. She was going to go all out. See if you can disgust him to death. Bei Qing and the others outside were completely stunned by the shocking content. Master was really a homosexual. The one who broke it was actually that old evil doctor. Wait a minute, it was Master who wanted to do something to Xie first? Their hearts were filled with thoughts, but they tried their best to remain calm on the surface. Only they knew how turbulent their hearts were right now. Especially the Blackfield Castellan, who was standing behind Bei Qing's wind feather, was even more shocked. So this was the reason why the Lord urgently invited Xie into the manor? No wonder the Lord never let any beauties get close to him. So it was because he had such a strange hobby? Just as everyone couldn't help but fill in the blanks, Yi Qianxian, who had been shocked by Luo Qingtong's bold words, finally reacted. How dare you? You! Before he could finish speaking, Luo Qingtong had already rushed out in a flash. As she rushed out, she covered her face and wept, I know. I know. My lord, you adore me. But after thinking about it, I still think that I prefer to be the one on top. You're tuning into the Romantic Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.